Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second show in As Above, So Below. That rhymes. I sound like a poet. And we have Amy Bird once again with us. We're so lucky to have her. I gave her a little introduction for the first show, but if you weren't part of the first show, then she is an extraordinary astrologer who has really helped me at a time when I feel and felt like I needed an astrologer in my life. And I know she's helping a lot of people out there to really connect with the map that they need and use it as a guide to help them through these challenging times and these times of transition and change. So thank you as well to everybody who is watching. Thanks for all your support last time. We were overwhelmed by the number of people who watched the video, and we've got something quite fun in store this time, and hopefully it will be as good, if not better, than last time, because we're a little bit more experienced. We've got some expert opinions from the wonderful astrologer that is Pam Gregory. We've also got Alberto Vialdo sharing his opinion about what's going on in this transitional period. And we've got Brecca Goldsmith. There's a bit of a funny video, amazing video that she made with regards to Pluto and Aquarius. So we've got a little clip from that. So thank you to all those incredible people. But firstly, I'll stop talking and I'll let Amy give a little introduction for where she is and why we were so desperate to do this second show. Amy, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I felt like it was important to go a bit deeper with the whole story, because we've not only got Pluto just moved into Aquarius, which obviously is a big thing, but just as it does, it squares the nodes. And the other part of the story is that Pluto is in Aquarius, and Aquarius has a ruler, and the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, and Uranus just happens to be in the financial sector in Taurus, which is the sign of finance. So there's more to the story. So it's quite a fun exploration. And what are the chances of Pluto going into Aquarius at the same time as squaring the nodes of the moon? And that kind of makes me feel like this is a very, very important part of our evolution, and that is personal as well as collective. I mean, we can see all sorts of things happening in the collective. And the interesting thing that I noticed, having spoken about when Pluto is in Aquarius before, and how that was when they overtoppled the king in France. They had the French Revolution, and now look what's happening in France. There's a lot of people, up in arms around the retirement age, and Macron is in a bit of trouble, really. And I actually noticed that his ascendant is 28 degrees Capricorn, right at the end of Capricorn. So I wonder, Pluto's basically affecting him right now in a big way. So I'm sure it's no coincidence. So yeah, it's
Wow.
interesting times, that's for sure. And it couldn't be more literal in a way, in with regard to history, that in the week since Pluto went in, there's been such a huge uprising there.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. It's not just happening in France, though, is it? We're seeing, you know, empires and systems crumbling all over the place. And I think after we chatted last time when we did a bit of a debrief on the show, we both felt there was a lot more to say about. I mean, for me, I follow the financial sector quite closely, and I mean, the whole banking system. Literally hours after our last conversation, all these messages came out that well, firstly, a lot of them are already closing down and shutting, but perhaps it's the whole system that's going to go. And we're not saying anything we say on this show isn't what is necessarily going to happen, but there's a real feeling that the economy of the world, the global economy, is in big trouble, and that's really shown in the astrology as well, isn't it, Amy?
Absolutely. Both in the nodes of the moon, because the nodes of the moon are in the financial sector. The North Node is in Taurus, which is about being self-sufficient, and the South Node, which is where we're coming from, is more the power structures. It's more kind of the banking system or the mortgage brokers, or so it's not really a good time to, in a way, to kind of be in debt. It's more of a time to be self-sufficient and the interesting thing as well is that with Uranus being in there, Uranus is the innovator, Uranus is technology. And so we've got the potential for some ingenious solutions to come up with regard to, you know, what happens with the economy. But of course, the potential for digital economy, I mean, it seems inevitable. It's just it would be good if it was for the benefit of the people rather than for the benefit of the elite. And I think
Mhm.
that's where Pluto in Aquarius comes in some ways, because I feel that Aquarius is about the people, and it is basically looking to kind of I was looking into kind of horizontal, there's something to do with horizontal companies or something like that, where you're getting rid of the hierarchies a little bit more. You know, I don't
Yeah.
really know a huge lot about it, but it's basically less of a hierarchical construct and more giving the power to the employees a little bit more and giving the power to the people. And I feel that Saturn in Aquarius in some ways has been preparing for us, because it was calling for us to take more responsibility. Okay, so we don't trust the people in government anymore. So what does that mean? You know, does that means that we have to take more responsibility ourselves? And you know, it's much easier for people to just go, oh yeah, you rule us, you make all the decisions, mummy and daddy, you know, daddy government and mummy healthcare system, you know, and we're just, you know, we'll just go along with what you say. But it, because of the extreme amount of mistrust in that system now, it seems like we are now potentially moving towards a time when we are going to need to take more responsibility for the world that we want to see.
Wow, well said. Aho, Amy Bird. It's funny you say that. I mean, I come from a corporate background. I sat in an office for many years, worked at the BBC, did journalism. I physically had to go to an office. Um, really felt the hierarchy, you know, the director general coming down. And actually, when I was younger, I could live with that system. It felt something normal. It was the only thing that we all knew, I guess. But right now, I mean, 24 years later, showing my age, um, I go in an office and I still do contracts for different sports federations and different companies, but I can't bear to be there, and I can't bear to see a manager telling someone or speaking to someone in a condescending way, or and so it's almost like it's already happened. It feels like to me. I don't think a lot of the big companies are ready for this. I have to say. I mean, I did a contract last year, and it was a company which was very hierarchical, but I get the feeling that, you know, and we've talked about this, Amy, this week, that it's already written in the stars, you know, and it's just a matter of time um, when this actually comes into play everywhere, all over the world.
Yes. And what will it look like and how will it come to pass? And someone was saying the other day, I can't remember who it was, but they said it feels like there's going to be need to be some kind of explosion for
Right.
things
Okay.
to actually change. You know, is something quite big going to happen? Like you know, Pluto does rule earthquakes. I mean, an economic earthquake. But you're
Right.
right about having this already having already been happening, because Pluto has been going through Capricorn for a while. And one of the things that I noticed on a personal level while Pluto was going through Capricorn is quite a lot of people did leave their corporate job and
Mhm.
wanted to find more meaning in what they were doing.
Mhm.
And there's also something that came up after our, you know, after our last talk for me, was that during the lockdown, that was a kind of a crumbling of the structure of people's lives on a personal level. And I
Mm.
felt like that was quite a big gift to the world in a way. I mean, albeit, you know, lockdown wasn't fun, but what it did was give people the chance to see another way of being, instead of just being on this constant treadmill of, you know, I get up in the morning, I get on the train, I go to work, I I achieve, and then I come home, and what is that, you know? And I think people were able to kind of have a bit more time for each other, have a little bit more time with their families, although for some people it was a bit more challenging than that, obviously. But I think what it did was that that whole structure of everybody's life just got dismantled, basically,
Mm,
and
yeah,
gave us a chance to see another way. And I'm sure that's all part of the whole process that we're going through. And
yeah.
now we've just got to undo some, as I was saying last time, it's like we're so conditioned to be that way. And as you said, the companies themselves are going to find it hard to change.
Mm.
Um, but it feels like it's inevitable at this point. The old way is not working anymore. So something new has to come in. But how is it going to come in?
Yeah, well, I guess that's one thing that astrology can't necessarily say. It's there, it's happening, and the energy is going to come through. But how it will manifest is harder to read. But that's the beauty of being alive, right? I
Yeah,
wonder. I wonder if because we are more conscious and perhaps living a more spiritual life than a lot of people out there, and I know most people who are going to watch this are so people who are watching. They're probably very conscious and very aware. But I was in London this week working, and I was on the tube, and I remember like many years ago when I lived in London, watching people like zombies looking at their phones, or no one looking at each other, and it's not that hasn't changed actually. I guess I was with the people on the commute on these particular days, but as a conscious person watching this, I was thinking, wow, these guys are in for a bit of a shock. And well, I also worked in Turkey a couple of weeks ago, and that is a beautiful country which has gone through some major, major traumas, with the earthquake happening over there. And that whole country stopped. They pretty much everything had stopped, and I think they've shut schools for 9 months. So I mean, it is possible for Mother Earth, Pachamama, to make this happen rather quickly.
yeah,
I have to say this. This is the funny thing that happened to me. So if you look behind me, I'm just going to move out of the way. There is a map of the world, and I don't know what this represents, but Russia and China, and now most of Europe, have just disappeared. They just fell off. They were white until a couple of days ago, and then slowly but surely China fell, then Russia, and now it's mainland Europe. And
very
it's
symbolic.
just I don't know what it's trying to say, but maybe we should just leave that one there.
I was just thinking about what you were talking about with the technology, because
That's
I am wondering whether partly what's going to happen with Pluto and Aquarius is to do with technology, and it 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 has become so isolating in a way. You know, on one level it connects us, and then on another level, people. I was talking to someone who's in his 20s, early 20s, and he said we're all afraid of each other in his
mm,
generation. And you
mm.
wonder why that is. Is that partly because everybody's on their little gadget and they're not actually interacting in the real world on some level? So I wonder whether we're going to have to go through some kind of a metamorphosis around technology, not just how it's used. And interestingly, that a lot of stuff around AI has come up in the past week or so as well, and the ethics of it and how it can be used as a form of control. There's that
Mm.
aspect to it, but there's also the aspect of it on a social and a personal level, that there may be some people that go off and do the Aquarian, let's go off and live in the woods and get away from technology. And I'll probably be one of them.
I will be joining that movement too, without a doubt. Yeah, well, AI has got some beautiful aspects. I mean, everything has a shadow, doesn't it? And everything has some beauty. But I think people are just freaked out by the fact that potentially you could watch a video of me and you, or of Donald Trump or whoever it is, saying something that they didn't actually say, because this technology can basically make anyone say and it feel and sound like they're saying anything. So that is a bit, from a political point of view, it's a bit scary. But maybe just like lockdown, there was a gift behind it, and that was us getting more in touch with our families and our planet and our loved ones. maybe the beauty of it is that it's going to bring a lot more opportunities for us to have more freedom, because perhaps the robots can do, I know people are scared of the robots, but they can do all the work for us, and we can all have a shared wealth, and go and live where we want in communities, and bring people on this planet closer together, instead of wasting our time sat in front of computers, and doing meaningless jobs. And without meaning to put everyone's jobs in one category, I know you haven't got a meaningless job, Amy. You're helping save the world. So, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is interesting in that respect, that there is always the shadow side and there's the beauty as well. I guess there's some people who are very upset because AI could easily take away their jobs and
Yeah.
give them a less of a feeling of purpose. You know, that's the other side of the astrology
Mm,
at the moment, is we do also have Neptune in, when you started talking about, um, how it can change people's faces and what they said and things like that. Neptune in Pisces at the moment, it's in its own sign and has been for a long time. And it brings the potential for spiritual oneness and unity, and this sense of us all being together, and
mm,
more compassion, more empathy for one another. But it also brings the potential for illusions and smoke screens and propaganda and illusions and things not being as they seem, and also escapism. And one of the things I've definitely noticed in recent times is the escapism part of things, like people watching. It's become like fashionable to binge watch Netflix, for
right.
instance.
Yeah.
It's like it's a socially acceptable thing, but basically what is that? It's, albeit it's quite nice to escape our lives, but that's what Neptune and Pisces is very much about, is kind of escaping. So yeah, so I think
Right.
the whole, it plays into the whole thing, I guess, is in that Pluto, I mean, in that Neptune in Pisces can create things that are not real, and
Mm,
propaganda being absolutely rife, and
mm,
so sophisticated now, compared to the Second World War. The propaganda machine is another story altogether now.
mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot to consider there.
Mm.
Because in some ways, one of my dreams is to go and live away off grid. Um, is that the same way of escaping as someone else who's a little bit less conscious but just wants to binge watch Netflix? I don't know. I guess I want to be of service, and I think that the important thing here is to be of service to the planet, to the to people, and to help people.
I
Um,
wouldn't think going away and being in nature, living in nature, I wouldn't call that escapism. I would call that getting back to the roots, and
yeah, yeah,
and that's what the North Node in Taurus is asking of us at the moment, is grow your own vegetables, get in touch with Mother Nature, get in touch with the earth,
yeah,
and share that love with other people, and share abundance with others. And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
we're definitely being called back to nature in a way, and to what is the simpler things in life. Almost like with everything that's going on in the economy, it's kind of like there's a journey within it, isn't there? A stripping back to the
Mm,
essentials, and people
yeah.
being much more mindful than they ever have, and actually probably more aware of, oh, this is where this is what um where electricity comes from, or how much it costs to actually run, is making people more mindful about the use of energy,
Yeah,
which is a good thing, you
yeah.
know.
No, it is. Well, just in case you don't realize just how big this moment is in our lives and in the history of this planet, here's two perspectives. One, Pam Gregory, the amazing Pam Gregory, and please check her channels out, because she is incredible. If you don't know her, and Alberto Vialda, Doctor Alberto Vialda, he's one of the shaman who runs the Four Winds Society, and Alberto. He spends a lot of time with indigenous communities, and he's got an incredible perspective about the future of our planet. So Here's a little video, and while you're watching it, if you could subscribe below, that would be really amazing, because it would be good to always have you knowing when the next show is going to be. So thank you for doing that while you binge watch Alberto and Pam Gregory.
We are absolutely in the crucible of this shift from the old world to the new. So please, please, please don't give life support to what we absolutely don't want. Focus all your love, your joy, your attention, your creativity towards creating something way, way better. And remember, these astrological energies are simply there as modeling clay for us to mold into something better.
This is the time for the great renewal, for the Pachacuti, for the end of time as we have known it, and for the birth of a new time.
We are really going to be seeing this and feeling this in our world. This is going to signal huge social and political changes and a very powerful evolutionary urge for change in many, many respects in our reality, many, many respects in our world. It's hard to overstate the enormity of the times we're living in.
Well, thank you, Pam and Alberto. I hope you could see that okay. It crackled a little bit at my side, but I think the gist of it was clear. Amy, what do you make of what Pam and Alberto have got to say about these epic times that we live in?
Yeah, I absolutely agree that this is a profound time, and it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. I've also been contemplating, we've got Pluto square the nodes, and we're talking about it all very much from the collective perspective of how this can be a change in our world. But I was contemplating it also with regard to us on an individual level. And I felt over the past week or so since Saturn went into Pisces, that there's a couple of things that have come up from that for me. And one is that people seem to be having more tangible experiences of the spirit world, which is very exciting in a way. And the other is, and this ties into Pluto square the nodes, because I feel that Pluto is asking us to face our shadows, both collectively and personally, and recognize what our resistance to growth might be. And we all have an area of our lives, we all have a north node, we all have something that ultimately represents our greatest growth. But the thing about the north node is it is also incredibly uncomfortable. So it's our kind of, I always say, it's like the north node is our greatest yearning and our greatest fear all at the same time. And so I think with Pluto being there at the moment, what is it saying? Is it kind of shining the light in a way on what our deepest resistances are? And at the same time as Saturn in Pisces saying, get your head out of the sand. If you've been burying your head in the sand over something, or there's some sabotaging thing that you do, or something that you've been avoiding, this is the time to face that thing that you're avoiding, because Pisces is very good at being an ostrich. That's that part of us that can just bury the head in the sand and go, okay, I really don't want to face that. And Saturn says, no, you've got to be a grown-up now. You've got to face that thing. And meanwhile, Pluto and square the nodes is saying, look at yourself really deeply and recognize the darkness, recognize the part of you that is deeply resistant to growth. And that's on a collective level, and that is on a personal level as well. And so we'll all have that going on one level or another, as well as, of course, as that we have to look at the collective shadow as well, and be emotionally honest about it, and look at that's why certain things are going to come to light. And Pluto exposes the darkness and exposes the corruption, and it kind of like shows the things that have been buried under the carpet, that if we don't look at them, then we're not going to be able to evolve.
Wow.
It's
I mean, that's
time.
yeah. Well, it's a bit scary, isn't it? Like, on an individual level, of course, there's a part of us that's always scared of change, and because we're so comfortable in our own shoes, right? But I guess this is the time, as the shamans say, to say yes. and to say yes to life, and to accept when things are moving. And I mean, last night I had a dream, Amy, that there was this crow, and it just kept coming and pecking me. And no matter what I did in the dream, he would appear, or she would appear, from whatever angle, and just nip me, like basically saying, "Come on, listen, I'm here. You can't get." Oh, and I just thought of as you were saying that, I remembered that dream, and I was thinking, wow, is that Is Pluto? What does it have, an animal? Is it a crow? Because certainly for me, Pluto was coming and pecking me yesterday and saying, there's obviously something that I need to meditate on there, that I need to work on, and I need to be open to, and willing to listen, because maybe some of us are a bit scared to listen to the winds of change, right?
Yes. And Pluto really asks us to dig deep. And I would say, you know, a crow is quite scorpionic in its own way. So I would imagine that is Pluto pecking at you.
Well, as
And
you know,
if we don't heed the need for change, then some kind of cataclysmic event happens to force change, you know. So as I've had that experience of smashing into a tree at my Pluto square Pluto, and that was just because I knew things needed to change, but I kind of was just had the blinkers on and wasn't really willing to look and, you know, go there. So yeah, it's a powerful time, and I just couldn't. It's easy to talk about what's going on in the world and everything, but this is a personal thing as well. And you know, I think for people who have their personal planets or angles, etc., around the end of a sign or the beginning of another sign, are going to be feeling this more than others. But everybody's going to be feeling it on one level or another, I would say. So.
Yeah, that's one thing I thought, Amy, that we should do for one of our shows, because I know to an astrologer who does this on a daily basis, it's very easy to read our charts and to read your own chart, and say, oh yeah, but if Pluto's here, or, you know, at this degree. But it'd be really nice from a personal point of view to have someone like yourself who's so clear and articulate in the way you say things, to explain where and why things and what they mean, if this is that, and how to read our own charts. So maybe that's something we could do in the future to help everybody who's watching who isn't an astrologer to really understand and be able to use their chart as a guide, which is why I came to you ultimately.
Yes, and it can be a very, very helpful guide. There was something that popped up for me when I was just looking at what was going on in the here and now. You know how I said that Macron has his ascendant at 28 degrees Capricorn. So obviously, you know, Pluto's right there for him right now. It's quite powerful on his ascendant. But Mark Zuckerberg has his Pluto at 1 degree Scorpio. So basically, he's having his Pluto square right now. Okay. So it's quite interesting to see, you know, in terms of if we think about like you know, the big tech. I mean, he feels like the epitome of big tech in a way, and Pluto's in Aquarius is squaring his Pluto, so he's having his cosmic kick up the bum in the next couple of years. So
right,
his transformation,
live on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. Live on Facebook.
So don't use Facebook in France, folks, because it's going to be a bit of a choppy ride for the next few months. Well, anyway, it'll be interesting to see how it rolls out, because I've also got Pluto on my ascendant right now, haven't I? So
you've got Pluto squaring your nodes right now.
I've got Pluto squaring my nose, right? Yeah, so maybe that's where the crows were coming in with a bit of scorpionic magic.
Exactly.
Okay. Right, we talked about how this affects us on an individual level, and Bracha Goldsmith is another incredible astrologer and channeler. I watched one of her videos. She gave some absolutely beautiful advice on how these transitional times can actually be really beautiful for us if we're in the right mindset or heart set. So, Bracha, take it away.
But we're working here with the power of the people. And I think this is really important, that you don't sit there and say, well, what difference can I make? I'm just one person. You make a huge difference. Aquarius, okay? These are the waves, okay? These are the waves. These are the Aquarian waves, all right? You have a unique wave that is only you. Nobody else can duplicate that. Nobody else has got that unique number. You have a unique astrology chart. You have a unique fingerprint. And this Pluto in Aquarius is about you. It's tuning into your unique power. Your unique ISBN number.
Okay, I hope the audio was okay there as well. It was a bit crackly again for me, but essentially what Brack is saying is this is our time as people, as human beings, and as individuals, and it's our moment to come together in a community. And if we approach this with the right mindset, there's nothing that we cannot achieve, and there's no reason to be scared of, Pluto in Aquarius. Although there's going to be big changes, that can be really beautiful changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I that's made me think of when it was actually when Uranus went into Taurus, was the tsunami in Japan. Interesting timing, Mother Nature and a massive tsunami. And the Japanese, because of the way that they are, they're community minded, and I just remember hearing these beautiful stories of just how everybody took care of each other. And it just naturally, there was just so much kindness. And I was thinking how we have a chance to kind of like, as I was saying last time, undo our conditioning and pave a different way and live in a different way. And what does that look like? And it may involve, having a different mindset about the whole thing, and approaching it all from a different angle and a different perspective, and changing our programming around what it means to be in community with others. And it could be like, in this case, it was a tsunami, and you saw the result of it. And I just do wonder whether on some level that it could be something quite big that happens. I mean, one thing that seems somewhat inevitable is something's going to happen around the economy. And what does that mean for, all of us, and how will we respond to that, I suppose. And then it is a case of people coming up with creative solutions. And and we all have an amazing survival ability. And what happens when you are in that survival mode, and what happens when the push comes to shove and crunch time comes, how will we respond? And will we be as kind and loving and caring to our fellow neighbor, woman, man, child, as the Japanese were to each other after the tsunami?
No, but I mean, that community spirit in Japan is a beautiful example of that. But I saw it in Turkey after the earthquake. I went over there with trepidation. I didn't even know if the event I was working on would even happen. But what I saw, it did happen, because they decided that it was good for, as a nation, Turkey to have something else to talk about. But what I did see was that the people who had lost people in the earthquake, and they'd pulled together so incredibly as a nation, and there were a lot of positives. Of course, there's nothing positive at the time when you lose someone you love, but the positives were that as a country, they almost remembered what life was about, as opposed to being stuck in that rut that so many of us get caught in, which is life overtakes us, and before you know it, it's next year, and really, is 2023 gone already? Because you're so focused on your job and getting things done and the fight or flight of life and stress. And that, that was one of the reasons why I really started to get into shamanism, and that learning to slow life down and to catch myself when I started to get trapped in well, I don't know, what is it, real life or in the
Mundane existence.
in the facade of life. And I think one of the beautiful things when you go to these shamanic communities and you see these indigenous people, you see that abundance is not about money. It's about love, and it's about self-love, but it's about happy, finding that space and that happiness in your community. And growing to me, it's just, why don't we all just go into the countryside and buy some land and just live in a community and grow our own food? Because to me it sounds so much more beautiful than going into work 9 till 5 every day in an office with people telling you off and telling you what you should be doing.
Yeah, and one person saying, "Oh, I've got too many turnips. Oh, I've got too many carrots. Here, let's do a trade."
I'm sure we'll find something to argue about. But that's okay. That's okay. I think so long as we do it with love, and we remember that life is more about, remember to breathe in between. There's something about having your bare feet on the grass and just breathing in that energy of the earth and the fresh air of being outside a city and eating something that's been grown and that's been given a lot of love. There's something, there's something about that I feel like in some ways humanity has gone backwards, and it's actually the people who lived hundreds, thousands of years ago, and the people living in the tribes right now and wherever they are. Respect to them for managing to stay in that space, because I have a feeling we're all going back to it.
Well, that's what the North Node is calling for at the moment. It is going to change signs on the 17th of July, move out of Taurus. But it does feel like we're being called to that, called back to the simpler way of being. And there are a lot more people growing their own vegetables, and partly the economic situation is calling for that. And then, the fear of there being less tomatoes in the world or whatever, then people are actually going and the people that can are growing themselves. So I feel like we are being called to that. And I don't think it's a coincidence that just at this moment we've got Uranus in Taurus and that we've got the North Node in Taurus. So it is basically calling us back to the earth and to that simpler way of being. And people have got caught up in the trappings of the material plane in a way, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you we've had a few people who've sent some questions in, so Amy, I hope you don't mind answering just a couple of questions. The first one, I don't know if you can see it in front of you, is from Charlotte Buxton from the UK. She says, how do you see the transits playing out in terms of AI and all the new technology we've suddenly seen appear in the last few months and weeks? I know we've kind of touched on this already a little bit, but is there something else you'd like to add to that, Amy?
Yes. I think that obviously Pluto goes into Aquarius, as I said, and we've already, it's already feels like so much more prevalent in the news. And of course, what Pluto does is expose the dark side of it, as well as the potential for the light side. And so there's going to be a discussion about it, isn't there? That's what it feels like. The ethics and morals are going to be called into question, and that's what Pluto does so beautifully. Is it does expose agendas or hidden motivations and things like that. So that hopefully that will get ironed out in some way. We also have Uranus in Taurus at the moment, which is kind of like, as I said, bringing the potential for what's the word? Kind of like a more digitalization around the finance side of things. But we also then, this is going to be happening in 2025 and 2026. We're going to have a Pluto-Uranus trine. And that's quite interesting because Uranus will have gone into Gemini by then. And I feel like that in a way, Gemini is the big communicator. And when I felt that that could be a time when AI really comes into its own. But I like the feeling of Pluto and Uranus together, because, you know, it's the god of change and the god of transformation and the god of innovation and technology all kind of playing together. And so that feels like quite a positive part of it. But we're definitely I think the big part of what's going on in the here and now is a big questioning of the ethics. And Pluto is the planet of power, so this technology can be used for power, but it can also be used for the greater good. So we've just got to make sure we're on the right line, we're on the right side of it, basically, and make sure that it is a force for good.
Okay, so that we step into our individual power and global power, but we don't abuse it.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
something for us all to consider. And we had another question from Miranda, and she said, I have some planets in Aquarius. What can I expect as Pluto travels through Aquarius? Again, we've touched on this a little bit, but maybe you wanted to add something there, Amy.
Yeah, I guess if you do have planets in Aquarius, then over the next 20 years, Pluto is going to be traveling over those. And that also applies to, you know, if you've got planets in personal planets in the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. In a way, those signs are the ones that will be kind of hit in the most kind of acute and strong way by Pluto. And Pluto is a planet of transformation. It does, as I was saying, you know, ask us to kind of dig deep and to go through some kind of a transformation. But one of the things that I've definitely noticed about it in recent times, having had a transit myself, is it gives us psychological insight into ourselves, and can help us recognize where we have resistance to change, what needs to change. Whatever planet it'll be going over, it'll give you some tremendous amount of insight and kind of transform the flavor of that planet. So if it was, say, your moon, then your emotional life and your feeling of the need for emotional security will be affected. If it's Mercury, then it'll be, you know, the way you think and the way you communicate will go deeper and will also be transformed, and you'll get greater insight into how you communicate. So it's a gift, I feel, Pluto. I mean, people get scared by this whole death and rebirth business, but there's it only destroys what's rotten. You know, it only destroys what isn't working or is outworn. And I think that's the thing about Aquarius, is we are being given a chance to undo some of our old conditioning about, you know, the way we operate in the world, and find a new way of being. And as we were saying last night, that can bring up a little bit of fear and a fear of the unknown. But I think there definitely is a fine line between fear and excitement. And I'll go for the excitement route.
Okay, I like your style. One final question. This is from Martin on planet Earth. He's obviously someone who's going to be going over into the community world. How will Pluto squaring the nodes impact the planet? Well,
just at this particular moment in time, obviously Pluto is in Aquarius, and as I said, the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus in the sign of Mother Earth, at the same time as Pluto squaring the North Node in Taurus. So Taurus, basically, Mother Earth, is very much being impacted by this. And there is a sense of us, you know, needing to find better solutions, Uranus, for the way we approach the, you know, the world and the earth, and how we're treating her. There is the potential for Mother Earth just having this almighty eruption, you know, and kind of, as we were saying, you know, the things like tsunamis or earthquakes and things like that are actually possible. But I think we're also being called to find a new way of treating the earth. And I think that as we go through Aquarius, especially while Uranus is still in Taurus, there is a chance to kind of approach it all from a different perspective, and you know, it'll be interesting to see what Mother Earth herself has in store for us. She'll survive us all, you know,
Oh, yeah.
but she might have a bit of a, you know, something to say about you know, humankind and the way humankind has treated her.
Well, we got a bit of a wake up call with COVID, didn't we? And the problem is we're trying. Well, I'm not, but a lot of people are trying to just get back to the normality, and that is essentially ignoring the message. And so that's, if I was Mother Earth, I would probably be coming for round two. But with round two, I mean, I don't want to spread fear around people. You know, you said eruption, earthquake. I was actually in an earthquake straight after the day after our last call, so maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and I'd never felt an earthquake in Switzerland. I was in Switzerland, and the whole place shook, and it was a bit scary, but I can only imagine what those people in Turkey have gone through, because someone I spoke to was actually there during the earthquake and fortunately survived it. They said that they've never heard a noise, an explosion. You said the word explosion before as well, Amy.
Yeah.
An explosion like it. I've never witnessed a big earthquake, but they literally said that the noise was something beyond anything they'd ever heard from the earth. And I guess, yeah. Well, let's see how it plays out. Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope the message is clear, but everyone who's watching this is in a good, safe space, so we can just listen and move beyond that, because we don't wish any harm on anybody, but unfortunately these messages have to be clear, don't they?
Yes. And just in terms of what Martin asked about, you know, Pluto and the nodes are switching signs in on the 17th of July. So Pluto will be kind of square the nodes between now and then. Well, no, for the rest of the year, but specifically with regard to Mother Earth, between now and July is the kind of, like, you know, peak time. And we are also about to have a couple of eclipses that activate the nodes of the moon in Taurus and Scorpio. So eclipses, I always think, you know, in olden times, before we knew much about astrology or people understood what was going on, I imagine seeing an eclipse, you'd think it would be the end of the world or something, or that God is bearing down on you or something like that. But this is very much connected to Mother Earth, these eclipses, because of the North Node being in Taurus and the economy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, the first one is, I've got them written down. The first one is on the 20th of April, and it's a total eclipse.
What time's that?
5:12 British summertime in England.
So UK time, 5:12
in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
And then then there's the Scorpio full moon, and that's also an eclipse on the 5th of May.
Wow.
So that it's always quite a profound time for people, for all of us individually. It's like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. And it's so interesting that this is all coinciding with, you know, Pluto being squared the nodes themselves, and the nodes are activated during an eclipse. So we'll see what happens in terms of the financial climate, and also, as Martin was saying, the Mother Earth.
Wow. I wanted to ask you one more thing. I wrote down a list of questions that I wanted to ask as well, because every time I speak to you, I get all these questions coming. I don't think I've got the details, but I seem to remember that this next new moon, I think, is it? Or is it a full moon? Is the 7th in a row at 16 degrees of the sign. Like that just seems to be like, is that not like being able to get writing the lottery numbers out? That just seems just absolutely impossible.
So it does kind of move and shift and evolve along a little bit, but there are quite a lot in that degree. And is the next one?
I think it's the next. I think
14 degrees by the next full moon. But
okay.
So the
But it
people
may,
with
right. Yeah. Sorry.
the people with their sun or personal planets at in the middle of the sign are going to be. I've been getting a bit of a whack for the past 6.
Well, apologies to all those people on behalf of Father Sky. But,
Exactly.
but it's good to know sometimes that this is happening, because if you don't know your astrology, then like you must think like, what the hell has happened to me? Like, why am I turning into this like monster, or why do I feel so strange? And if you
Why do
know
I
it,
feel like I'm being pummeled?
yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people do feel like they're being put, but you do have those days, don't you, when you just feel like you get out of bed and you're like, it just doesn't feel right, or you have a lower energy, or there's
Or you're
something that's been
angry.
repeating over and over your head, and you can't get out, and you don't want to feel like that, but you just do. And it's if you know the astrology, maybe people get scared because they think they're going to find something out they don't want to know about a day in their life, but actually it really benefits you, because you can go, it's only because Pluto is,
Yeah.
is aspecting by Saturn, whatever, I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah, I had
yeah.
a moment like that the other day. Well, yesterday actually. I was like running around and I was tired, but for some reason I had so much energy. And so I kind of thought, oh, just have a look at the chart. And Jupiter in Aries, so full of beans, like he seems like a superhero, was forming this lovely trine to my sun, which is my sense of vitality. And I'm like, no wonder I'm like full of beans here, even though I'm actually tired. And then a friend the
Yeah.
other day asked me, why am I feeling so they were just saying I've just had a bit of I've been angry all day, like something's come up, and like this upset me and that upset me, and then Mars was square their sun at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like,
see,
oh,
there you go. It's all written in the stars. It's all there.
yeah.
And the other final thing before we finish, Amy, because I know you are a busy person, and I can see your website address is there, so just in case anyone does need to contact Amy to receive some guidance. The background that I put today is actually part of a photo that I took of the light codes. It was I think it was the 23rd and 24th of March that there was a new set of light codes were brought to Earth, and so that background is actually a photo I took. And I mean, I've seen many rainbows, and I've never seen so many rainbows than in the last 2 weeks. I want to say that, and every time I see a rainbow, I send it to Amy now. But but I was looking across Lake Geneva, because my place looks down on Lake Geneva. That's the one in Switzerland, not in the US. And I saw colors all over the sky, not in a rainbow shape, but in just whirring, literally whirring, like watching the Northern Lights. The
Wow.
Auroras Borealis. It was absolutely, and we're also everyone, not even people who know nothing about these light codes, like what, what is going on? I've never seen anything like it. So keep your eyes peeled, because there's some really amazing things happening to this planet right now. I don't know
Beautiful.
if you've seen anything like that, Amy, or
No, I've seen lots of rainbows recently though. So yeah, there's something going on in that respect. And and a friend saw the Northern Lights up in Scotland as well recently.
magnificent. Well,
Mother Nature, beauty.
exactly. Well, I think for now that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much to everybody who has watched this show. Also, thank you for all your comments. We really appreciate comments, and it'd be great if you could just comment below as you're watching this, because probably most of you aren't watching this live, and just say what you'd like to hear about and learn about, because we're with you. We want to help you, and we pick the subjects based on what we think is relevant. But if you've got something, please write it down. And even if you haven't, just write thank you or give some feedback, even if it's negative, about this show, and we will try and make it better and more right for you guys. We want it. We want to serve you. We're being of service, aren't we, Amy? Here, that's the point. We're not getting any money for it. We just want to help people, and so really appreciate all your comments, all the minutes that you're putting into watching this, and also please give us a feedback, and we'll change it and try and improve it, because we are in progress, just like this planet and humanity. And we really want to help you through these times. That's the whole point why we set this up. We want to help you to get through this kind of transition. Amy, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we disappear over the horizon?
I think I've said all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Amy. Thank you to you for watching. Subscribe if you can. That'd be really appreciated. And like last time, I wanted to finish on a poem. And this poem we've talked a lot about connecting with Mother Nature and with the earth and the beauty of the earth. And so here's a little poem that I wrote about that, which I wanted to share with you. The whir and the throbbing of the helicopter blades fades into the empty, deep blue sky. Time walks out of the room, and love walks in. Nothing can match this vista, 360 degrees of royalty. The deafening silence of nature untouched, the unspoken poem of the Apus. For Mother Nature, the artist did not need to speak. For silence is her tune. Love is her voice. She is all, beauty inside and out. Reaching far beyond the senses, the gentle whisper of the wisdom breeze, the exquisite dance of the grass as the sun serenades the wind, the blank canvas of the untrodden snow path. Time stops. The Tibetan guru reaches out from his cave to touch infinity. The adventurer turns down the road never taken. The climber summits the peak which has never been scaled. Mother Earth smiles, for her roads and her mountains are infinite, just like her love, for she is purer than pure, whiter than white. Every creed, every color, every ocean, every tide, every magnificent mountain, there she is, holding space for us all as we go through this transition, from now until forever. Whenever, forever, always. The greatest artist that never was but always is. The whir of the helicopter blades fades back into earshot, into the empty deep blue sky. Time walks back into the room. But this time love decides to stay, for nothing can match this delicious vista. So, thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you for holding space for us. And yeah, we know that perhaps you've got some more surprises for us, but without you, we wouldn't be here. And we need to start giving this planet some love. So thank you. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And we'll see you next time on As Above, So Below. And if I can find the opening title, that would have been really smooth then, wouldn't it, Amy, if I'd managed to just find it. Oh, here we go. Goodbye, everybody.